And we're back on 9:30 a.m. The Answer, home of conservative talk radio, with the Kevin on the record with the Tiffany and Kevin show. Mm-hmm. All right, Dr. Davis, I cut you off in the last segment. What were you going to share with us?
I was just going to say what needs to happen is people need to be informed about the specific test that they should be requesting, right? Mm-hmm. Knowing that it's a urine test, it's a blood test, and making that part of their annual physical, right? When you go in, but that's a whole nother conversation. How often are people going in for these annual examinations, yep. right? And so I think there's a lot of education that needs to happen, a lot of not coaching, but I just think we just need to really make sure that people understand the importance of this. We are at high risk for this. It is happening disproportionately in our communities. Because of that, we need to monitor, we need to test. Here are the tests. And the messages can be as simple as that. Here are the tests that need to, that you should be asking for when you see your physician, because it's something that is easy to monitor when you make the test. It's when you make the request, not the test. Sorry, when you make the request to your physicians. Like even I started a new medication recently, and my doctor says to me, okay, well, because this medication is what it is, we now need to start monitoring your kidney function. Mm-hmm. And so when I get my blood work, that's now part of the cycle to make sure that this is not having an adverse impact on my kidneys. But also, like, I can request that myself. I didn't have to wait for my doctor to prescribe me with something that could have an impact on my kidneys for me to start having those things, knowing that I personally, and I didn't share this, but I personally have a family history of kidney disease, as well. My mother, two of my aunts and my grandfather all had kidney disease. My mom is the only one who's still living, but it's been a part of my life since I was a kid. Yeah. And I think in some ways has inspired the work that I do. When people say, what keeps you going? It's like, my aunt was scary to me. I remember being a little kid and I was scared of her. I was so scared of her. And I didn't understand until maybe my teens why I was so scared of her. We lived in one community and then had a fire at our home, and my aunt graciously opened up her home to us. And so we moved to live with them. And I remember at night, she would go into the room and the door was closed and I could hear buzzes and things going on and off. And I didn't know what it was, but I was a germy kid and I was not allowed in the room. Once she went in and closed that door, I couldn't go in. But all I know is I'd listen at the door and it was like scary. Like, what's going on in there? Why can't I go in? She was doing home dialysis. And when I was 8 years old, when I was 8 years old, she got a transplant. And I remember it was a couple days before my birthday. And so we would celebrate, after that point, we would celebrate together her second birthday and my birthday, because we actually became closer, because now there wasn't that literal barrier, that door that kept us apart. At a certain time of night, she had to get on the machine so she would be prepared for the next day. And that's what they say. Oh, Dee Dee's getting on the machine. She's got to get on the machine. And I remember being scared of her, literally scared of her. But that transplant transformed our relationship. She taught me how to drive when my mom didn't have the patience to let me drive. When my mom would say no to letting me use the car, my aunt would let me use her car. It was like our relationship really transformed as a result of that transplant. And I think, when we think about the benefits of transplant, right, dialysis, there are certain types of dialysis where you can be more mobile and have more freedom in terms of your schedule. But, if there are other types where if you're going to a center, you have 3 or 4 hours where you're in a center every other day. And so there's a lot that changes in your life in terms of things that you can and can't do. Or I want to say can or can't do, but more challenging, bless you, that become more challenging for you to do when you do have to do dialysis. So personally, I can speak to the benefit of transplant. It transformed our relationship.
Talk to us a little bit about one of the reasons we brought you on was the new series. Oh, go ahead, Tiffany. I'm sorry.
Can I ask also, like, when I hear that, I also hear how sickness was affecting your relationship.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because I think that we don't, we talked about this earlier with with Reginald, that the sickness and how you are with when you're on dialysis, how tired people are.
Oh yeah.
It's just they're different. You're a different person as opposed to after a transplant.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It was like night and day, the difference. I genuinely was scared of her. And I never knew why. It was until I was in my early teens that I really started to understand, what was going on and what caused me to be fearful. I was a kid and things are going off and I'm hearing bells and whistles and she can't come out and I can't go in. And I'm like, but why? That's my Aunt Dee. Like, why is there this barrier, that I can't get through? And I'm like, as a kid wanting what I want, I'm also a Taurus. So, that's very stubborn. So yeah, there's that part. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the new series you have. It's explain to us what it is on the Linked by Love series.
Sure. I'm happy to share about this. So I was privileged to be part of the research arm, I'll call it that, the research team that helped to develop the Linked by Love series. And Linked by Love is a 6-part or 6-episode series that follows a family, an African-American family, from the diagnosis of the mother with kidney disease through to receipt of a transplant through paired kidney donation. This was such a cool project that I got to work on. One, we got to partner with the Mendez National Institute of Transplantation Foundation on this, but also because of grant funding, we were able to have this series produced in its fullness. And so this has been fully recorded. These episodes are available on linkedbylovetv.org. So you can watch them. They're available to the public. But my role in this project, I kind of came in maybe at stage 2 of the project. So stage 1 involved talking to many different stakeholders, so physicians and people from the African-American community, to find out their experiences with kidney disease and transplantation, and to find out about the myths and misconceptions, the barriers and facilitators to getting a transplant. And that information, those focus groups and interviews, helped to inform the script development. And so the script in its original form was developed by the time I came on board. When I came on board, I wanted to, but I was tasked with involving patients in the process and getting their feedback on the scripts, patients who had diabetes, hypertension, kidney disease, or who had transplant or donated a kidney, to find out their perspectives. Was it engaging? Did it make sense? Was it realistic even? And did they learn anything about kidney disease or kidney transplantation during the process? And so those focus groups that I did with patients here in Houston were used to help revise the scripts. Once those scripts were revised, we sent them back to the writers and producers. They made the edits. We got feedback from physicians and everything, just to make sure that it was authentic, because, we wanted to know, or, the producers wanted to know and the writers wanted to know, like, hey, when you walk into a room, what should the doctor have on? What if the patient is undergoing dialysis, what types of equipment should there be in the room? Should the doctor have a white coat and a stethoscope and all these things? Should they have a tablet or a notebook, or how are they taking notes? What is this exchange? What types of questions should they be asking? What does the exam look like? Because these were real Hollywood actors and actresses who were actually filmed to make the storyline, or to make the series. And so we wanted to make sure that it was as authentic as possible. And so, after that process, the series was created, and we have at this point done 3 premieres. The main premiere out in LA at the Writers Guild of America. And then we did 2 premieres here in Houston. We did one that was internal to Houston Methodist Hospital, where I work, and then also one that was hosted for the public at the Health Museum here in Houston as well. And so the goal is really to get information out about this series, because it's a what they refer to as edutainment. And the edutainment strategy for, in terms of education really involves providing educational content in an entertaining way. This can be a PSA. In this particular case, it's actually a series set up at something like you would see for Hulu or Netflix. I've actually had people come up to me afterwards and say, "Hey, when is this going to be on Hulu or Netflix?" And I mean, that's not a decision for me to make. I'm not at the top of this. I'm just one of the research professionals for this project. But I mean, having something like this, because it is presented in an entertaining way, if it could get out in mainstream and really impact people, I think it would be phenomenal. But the themes that were talked about in the series, were really informed by the stakeholders who, have real experience in this, so they talked about, that even that privacy that we talk about here and that we've been talking about, that pride, that was a theme that came up in the series. They talked about the importance of nutrition and diet and exercise and those different things that can impact the progression of kidney disease.
Mm-hmm.
So the very first few episodes, or the first 2 episodes, are really about the prevention piece with regard to kidney disease. And then we see the character have to make a decision about her treatment for kidney disease. And she decides that, or rather she and her husband decide that they're going to do living donor transplant, but, through paired donation. And so I won't tell you anymore because I actually want you to go and watch the series, linkbylovetv.org. But it was delightful to see it go from words on a page and knowing what the impact could be. Because this is real. We don't often see depictions of Black health stories on the big screen. We don't see it often. Yeah. And so to really use research as the basis for developing this storyline, to make sure that it's authentic, to make sure that, we got voices from the community to help make this real. I think it really makes it hit home. And my hope is that people will watch this, they'll learn more, they'll start to ask questions. And from those questions, they'll start to, do some of that prevention work and, get tested if they don't know their numbers. Find out, what their risks are for developing kidney disease if they do have things such as hypertension and diabetes. But, start to have conversations in families. The series is really developed around a family story. And so I hope that this starts to spark conversations in communities within families so that we get past that proud, private Black folk kind of schema that we're seeing.
Yeah, I agree with that. Tiffany, I've seen it. I've seen the first 3. And to be honest with you, Dr. Davis, I was like, is it going to be bad? I want to sit here and watch this. But once you start with it, it's actually really good.
I would like to know, because I'd love for us to host, now this is my Texas Kidney Foundation hat on.
That's how you put it on, yep.
I would love for Texas Kidney Foundation to host a premiere, because I think we can come to it. Mm-hmm. The people who need to see it, come to it. So that needs to be our next goal, because we have some museums and stuff that we work with that I think we should be able to host our own premiere.
Yeah, and it's good
to bring people to it.
Yeah, it's 6 series, right? Because I think I'm 50% of the way. 6 episodes, right? Mm-hmm. Not series, 6 episodes.
There are 2 different programs here, because there's Linked by Love, and then there's another one,
Fixing Paco.
Fixing Paco.
So Fixing Paco is similar but different to Linked by Love, or than Linked by Love. Fixing Paco was actually the precursor that inspired the development of Linked by Love. And so Fixing Paco follows a Hispanic family as they journey through kidney disease and then its treatment through living donor transplant. So similar but different, and it's a beautifully done program as well. I believe there are 9. Fixing Paco is a little longer. I think there are 9 episodes for Fixing Paco, but each of the series have PSAs and educational content associated with them. The Linked by Love series has a docu-series where some of the actors and some of the research team some of the research team actually make some cameos and talk about their experiences with Link by Love and with the development of Link by Love. And so, but both of the series are really awesome and really designed for communities that are most in need, communities that are suffering disproportionately with kidney disease. And so I know that I know that Fixing Paco didn't have the same type of premiere as Link by Love did here in Texas and in the Houston area specifically, but the series is still out there and still available. And so for communities who are interested, it would be great to have them.
We'll put the links in the show notes.
Let's have a discussion on premieres, because a premiere is just a matter of us putting together a premiere.
Right.
Basically.
All right, I really love that. We will put the show notes to both Fixing Paco and Linked by Love in the show notes below. And you've been listening to On the Record with Tiffany and Kevin on 9:30 a.m. The Answer, home of conservative talk radio.
Thank you so much to our guest, Dr. LaShara Davis, for coming and just being so vulnerable and real and informative to our audience.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity to share.